Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Hamas delegation to arrive in Cairo for ceasefire talks. Hezbollah says will work with Lebanon army to implement ceasefire. Cyclone Fengal likely to make landfall on Saturday. Red alert in parts of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Flight operations suspended ancient night. Zelenskyy proposes truce formula. Take Kyiv held Ukrainian territory under NATO umbrella. Let the other rest with Russia and begin diplomacy. And in sports, it is India versus China in World Chess Championship. India's Gukesh and China's Ding Liren to take the brain game in a while in Singapore today. Peace process for Gaza is set to resume today as a Hamas delegation will arrive in Cairo on Saturday for talks with Egyptian officials on a possible ceasefire in Gaza. The visit comes days after the United States said it would begin new efforts with Qatar, Egypt and Turkey to revive Gaza ceasefire talks. The United States has also announced a new diplomatic effort with Qatar, Turkey and Egypt to reach a Gaza ceasefire and the release of hostages taken during Hamas's October 7, 2023 attacks on Israel that set off the current fighting. The only ceasefire so far in November 2023 saw the release of about 100 hostages by Hamas and its allies in exchange for 240 Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. The announcement came 2 days after a ceasefire went into effect between Israel and the Lebanese group Hezbollah. The head of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, pledged on Friday to coordinate closely with the Lebanese army to implement a ceasefire deal with Israel. In his first televised address since the ceasefire came into effect, Qassem said Hezbollah had approved the deal with the resistance strong in the battlefield and our heads held high with our right to defend ourselves. The ceasefire stipulates that Hezbollah will withdraw from areas south of the Litani River and that the Lebanese army will deploy troops there as Israeli ground troops withdraw. Russian and Syrian jets on Saturday bombed insurgents who had taken positions in the Aleppo city suburb they had captured on Friday. This was revealed by two Syrian military sources. Syria has been witnessing fierce fight between rebels and the government-led forces. The bombing campaign also targeted towns and villages taken by rebels in a surprise sweep from their opposition enclave to the city. Syrian army closed major roads in and out of Aleppo, issuing safe withdrawal orders to troops in certain neighborhoods. Syrian authorities also closed Aleppo airport and cancelled all flights on Saturday. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said key Syrian town of Sarakib was also taken over by the jihadist groups. Friday's advancement in Aleppo is part of a major offensive launched by Syrian rebels and their allies that began Wednesday. By Friday, opposition fighters led by the Islamist militant group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham captured over 50 towns and villages in northern Syria. Russia, a key ally of Assad, has pledged additional military aid to help repel the rebels with new equipment expected to arrive within the next 72 hours. The rebels are returning to the city for the first time since 2016. Meanwhile, a video posted on social media shows students rushing down the stairs of student housing at the university in the government-held city of Aleppo after an artillery shell fell. The official news agency of Syria reported death of 4 people in the strike. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has proposed a truce formula to stop conflict with Russia for the time being. The proposed formula seems to be part of his long-announced victory plan that he has been hinting for quite some time. In an interview with a UK-based news channel, Zelenskyy has said that Ukraine needs to be given security guarantee by Western nations. He said that this can be done by NATO. Clarifying his proposal, he said that NATO should give security umbrella to the Ukrainian territories that are there in control of the Ukrainian forces. He also said that let the Ukrainian territories which are in Russian control be with Russia. It can be resolved through diplomacy later. To reinforce his proposal, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha has written a letter to NATO Secretariat to extend an invitation to Ukraine to join the military alliance during a meeting in Brussels next week. Ukrainian leader also accepts that NATO membership was not possible when war on, but a proposal and letter from NATO will boost his credibility at home for any further relaxation to Russia, especially after Donald Trump takes over power in USA. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy also talked to French President Emmanuel Macron over phone to garner his support on future course of action on Friday. Macron reiterated his condemnation of an escalation in Russia-Ukraine conflict and reaffirmed his support for Ukraine during the phone call. While Zelenskyy mentioned that he had a productive telephone conversation with Macron, he also thanked him for France's readiness to help with generally strengthening Ukraine's air defense capabilities and for general support in speeding up the transfer of Mirage aircraft. Britain's parliament voted in favour of a new bill to legalise assisted dying on Friday. After a passionate debate in the House of Commons, the lower house of parliament, 330 lawmakers voted in favour of the terminally ill adults bill with 275 against. Under the bill, mentally competent, terminally ill adults in England and Wales who are assessed by doctors to have 6 months of less left to live would be allowed the right to choose to end their lives with medical help. Campaign group Dignity in Dying hailed the result as a historic step towards greater choice and protection for dying people, but Christian Concern called it a very Black Friday for the vulnerable in this country. Vote counting begins in Ireland with an exit poll indicating a tight finish between the two main parties, with partial results expected throughout the day. Voters chose a new 174-seat lower chamber of parliament, the Dáil, with a housing crisis dominating the campaign. After voting concluded late Friday, the pro-Irish Unity Sinn Féin party had 21.1% of the vote, neck and neck with the centre-right Fine Gael led by outgoing Prime Minister Simon Harris on 21.0%. A final result, however, may take days as Ireland's proportional representation system sees votes of eliminated candidates redistributed during multiple rounds of counting. An explosion on Friday evening damaged a canal in northern Kosovo, supplying water to two coal-fired power plants that generate nearly all of the country's electricity. Recovery works continued into the early hours of Saturday. According to Kosovo Interior Minister, the explosion was a terrorist act and that part of the canal was damaged. There were no immediate reports of injuries and the cause of the blast was not clear, Minister added. Meanwhile, Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti on Friday accused neighbouring Serbia of being behind an explosion that damaged a canal in northern Kosovo.
Shtetëror janë të angazhuara për të siguruar menaxhimin e situatës, rekuperimin e dëmit dhe zbardhjen e plot.
State bodies are engaged in managing the situation, repairing the damage and fully clarifying the case. The attack was carried out by professionals. This was another criminal and terrorist attack, which we believe comes from gangs directed and orchestrated by Serbia, which has both the interest, the readiness and the ability to cause such attacks and damage. In this particular case, by using a significant amount of explosives in a critical location where repair is difficult.
Në rastin konkret duke përdorur një sasi të madhe të eksplozivit.
Georgian police fired water cannon on demonstrators as thousands take to the streets for a second day to protest the government after Georgia's Prime Minister Salome Zorabishvili said to halt EU accession talks until 2028. European Union accession is overwhelmingly popular in Georgia, according to opinion polls, and the move saw thousands mass outside the parliament building in Tbilisi, dispersed by riot police using water cannon and gas. The freezing of application talks has been met with widespread anger in Georgia, which has the aim of EU membership written into its constitution. Protesters carrying Georgian and EU flags pressed toward the Soviet-built fortress like Parliament building and hurled fireworks at police officers. Georgia's president expresses solidarity with the resistance movement that is seeing thousands rally against the government's decision to delay EU membership talks amid a post-election crisis.
Today I can say with confidence that a resistance movement has begun. It is your movement, initiated by you, without anyone's instructions or demands, a spontaneous, peaceful, constitutional resistance movement. I stand in solidarity with it. We are entirely by your side and we will remain united until Georgia achieves its goals, to return to its European path, secure new elections and ensure that its future is protected once and for all.
World Trade Organization chief Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was reappointed for a second term at a special meeting in Geneva on Friday. Okonjo-Iweala, a former Nigerian finance minister who made history in 2021 by becoming the WTO's first female and first African Director General, announced in September that she would run again, aiming to complete unfinished business. No other candidates ran against her, and all of the WTO's 166 members agreed by consensus to a proposal to reappoint her. Okonjo-Iweala said she was looking forward to working with the incoming Donald Trump administration and that she saw common grounds between them on areas like intellectual property rights.
I'm grateful to the membership for the election to a second term. We have a full agenda to deliver for the people of this world that we are here working for and for the planet. And we fully intend to get to work immediately, no stopping, to try and deliver on these results. I'm grateful for the honor of serving this organization, for the trust that the membership has put in me. Until we get specifics in terms of what is planned, I think it will be a bit premature to try to pronounce on these issues. We look forward to working with the administration. We are grateful to the administration we worked with now. We are looking forward to working with the new administration.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Landslide in Uganda. Stay tuned to know more. Double Olympic medalist PV Sindhu reaches the finals of Syed Modi International Super 300 badminton tournament.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And some weather-related updates now. Landslide in eastern Uganda has killed at least 17 people, with rescue operations underway to try and find the 100 people who may be trapped in the deep mud that engulfed the area. The landslide occurred on Wednesday in Bulambuli district, about 300 kilometers east of the capital Kampala, and buried dozens of homes across several villages, with vast areas covered in deep mud where homes and schools once stood. Community members wailed over the remains of their recovered loved ones. The Ugandan government has directed citizens living in landslide-prone areas to relocate. The Red Cross and police are conducting a search and rescue operation. The East African nation has been hit by unusually heavy rainfall since October that has triggered widespread flooding and landslides in some areas. The recent heavy rains caused flooding in the northwest after a tributary of the Nile River burst its banks, prompting the Prime Minister's office to issue a disaster alert saying that main roads across the country had been cut off. Residents in southern Thailand were rescued from their flooded homes by members of the Thai army as severe flooding continues in southern Thailand. Flooding triggered by heavy rains have left 4 people dead and affected more than 240,000 of households in southern Thailand. The military rescuers used boats to transport the flood victims through waist-high floodwaters. Sundhnúkur volcanic fissure eruption on Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula continues to flow since November 20th. The eruption is the 7th since December and comes after years of increased seismic activity in the region. The persistent eruptions have led researchers to question whether this is the beginning of a more prolonged period of volcanic unrest in the region, with some experts suggesting that the eruptions could continue for a while, reshaping the landscape and potentially having long-term impacts on the local ecosystem. North Korea's state media released still photographs of leader Kim Jong-un meeting with Russian Defense Minister Andriy Belousov in Pyongyang on Saturday. The still images also showed Kim and Belousov at a banquet and attending a concert. During the meeting, Kim said Ukraine's use of long-range weapons is the result of direct military intervention by the United States, and Moscow is entitled to fight in self-defense. Kim pledged to expand ties with Russia in all areas, including military affairs, under the comprehensive strategic partnership he signed with Russian President Vladimir Putin in June. The U.S. State Department has approved the potential sale of spare parts for F-16 jets and radars to Taiwan for an estimated $385 million, the Pentagon said on Friday, a day before Taiwan President Lai Ching-te starts a sensitive Pacific trip. The United States is bound by law to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself, despite the lack of formal diplomatic ties between Washington and Taipei, to the constant anger of Beijing. China has been stepping up military pressure against Taiwan, including 2 rounds of war games this year, and security sources said that Beijing may hold more to coincide with Lai's tour of the Pacific, which includes stopovers in Hawaii and Guam, a U.S. territory. The Pentagon's Defense Security Cooperation Agency said the sale consisted of $320 million in spare parts and support for F-16 fighters and active electronically scanned array radars and related equipment. According to the Pentagon, the State Department also approved the potential sale to Taiwan of improved mobile subscriber equipment and support for an estimated $65 million. Last month, the United States announced a potential $2 billion arms sale package to Taiwan, including the delivery for the first time to the island of an advanced air defense missile system battle tested in Ukraine. Sectarian clashes in northwest Pakistan's claimed 13 more lives, according to a local government official on Saturday. The total death toll from the recent violence in the Kurram district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province has surged to 124. The unrest began last Thursday when 2 police escorted Shiite Muslim convoys were ambushed, leaving over 40 dead. Since then, 10 days of intense fighting have paralyzed the region, shutting down major roads and mobile networks as death toll continues to climb. Amidst protests continuing for the release of former ISKCON monk Chinmoy Krishnadas, who is under arrest in Bangladesh on charges of sedition, the Bangladeshi authorities have frozen his bank accounts along with bank accounts of 16 other people associated with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Expressing deep concern at the situation, Government of India has asked Bangladeshi authorities to ensure the safety of minorities. Meanwhile, Bangladesh High Court has rejected a petition to ban ISKCON, stating that the current situation does not warrant such a measure.
The Indian government has responded to the situation in Bangladesh. The Ministry of External Affairs on Friday expressed deep concern over the violence against Hindus and once again urged the Bangladeshi authorities to ensure the safety and security of minority communities.
The interim government must live up to its responsibility of protecting all minorities. We are concerned at the surge of extremist rhetoric, increasing incidents of violence and provocation. These developments cannot be dismissed only as media exaggerations.
Indian political leaders across the political spectrum have called for the protection of Hindus in Bangladesh. Protests in different parts of India, from Kolkata to Jammu, show solidarity with the Hindu minority and other minorities in Bangladesh. Massive protests were held in Kolkata, organized by the Hindu Jagran Manch, demanding the release of the Hindu monk Chinmoy Krishna Das. The protests will not die down. The BJP leader Suvendu Adhikari revealing plans for the next few days.
मैं भारत से ट्रू पैट्रियोटिक पीपल को अपील करूंगा.
I appeal to all true nationalists. Boycott Bangladesh. Every day we have processions, Hindu processions. Tomorrow there will be 2 big processions, taking the flag with the slogan of Jai Shri Ram. It will be held in Jadavpur and in Prasad. On Monday we will have a big protest near Petropol, wherever we get permission.
ISKCON has always denied allegations that it was linked to violent protests, emphasizing its commitment to peaceful coexistence. The Bangladesh High Court rejected a petition to ban ISKCON, stating that the current situation does not warrant such a measure. The Indian government has vouched for the good character and service of ISKCON.
We see ISKCON as a globally well-regarded organization with a strong record of social service.
However, Bangladesh's Financial Intelligence Unit has ordered the freezing of bank accounts of 17 people associated with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, Bangladesh, including its former leader, Chinmoy Krishna Das Brahmachari.
We have a responsibility because we enable Bangladesh to be free and independent. Now, whatever the change of government has been in Bangladesh, it cannot be acceptable that religious minorities are persecuted in this way.
The incoming Trump administration in the US has commented on the situation in Bangladesh. Johnny Moore, a former advisor to President-elect Donald Trump, described the violence against minorities in Bangladesh as an existential threat and put the blame squarely on the interim head, Mohammed Yunus.
Well, I can tell you, if you're a religious minority in the country and you're wondering whether you're going to live tomorrow, it's a very, very big deal. And it is the first responsibility of any government to protect these people. Mohammed Yunus is failing. That's what's happening. And he better fix it right away.
The interim government of Bangladesh, led by Mohammed Yunus, is pursuing charges of crimes against humanity against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at the International Criminal Court. The pursuit of these charges is likely to further strain relations between India and Bangladesh. Hasina has been provided shelter in India. She has called for the immediate release of Chinmoy Krishna Das, who was arrested on charges of sedition. Bureau Report, DD India.
Sri Lanka's consumer prices fell by 2.1% in November, the highest deflation rate recorded by the economically fragile island nation since 1961, official data showed Saturday. An unprecedented financial crash in 2022 brought months of consumer goods shortages, with inflation peaking at nearly 70% that year. Since then, a $2.9 billion bailout loan from the International Monetary Fund, tax hikes and other austerity measures have slowly made headway in repairing the island's economy. Sri Lanka's central bank said inflation was likely to return to its target level of 5% in the coming months. Sri Lanka had already seen deflation of 0.8% in October and 0.5% in September. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, who was elected in September, has vowed to maintain the IMF bailout program negotiated by his predecessor that includes higher taxes and cuts to state spending. Back home, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will attend the All India Conference of Director Generals and Inspector Generals of Police from 30th November to 1st of December at Bhubaneswar in Odisha state. The conference will include deliberations on critical components of national security, including counter-terrorism, left-wing extremism, new criminal laws and narcotics. The President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service will be awarded during the conference. The conference will also be attended by Union Home Minister Amit Shah. The conference will provide an interactive platform for senior police professionals and security administrators in the country to freely discuss and debate diverse national security related issues, as also various operational, infrastructural and welfare related problems faced by police in India. Its deliberations will include formulation and sharing of professional practices and processes in tackling challenges related to crime control and law and order management, besides internal security threats. As Cyclone Fengal intensifies over the Bay of Bengal and heads towards landfall near Puducherry, Tamil Nadu authorities have issued urgent advisories and implemented key safety measures. Cyclone Fengal is predicted to make landfall on Saturday afternoon, with winds potentially reaching speeds of up to 90 km per hour. India's weather department predicts that the cyclonic storm will move west-northwestwards and cross North Tamil Nadu Puducherry coasts close to Puducherry with a wind speed of 70 to 80 km per hour, gusting to 90 km per hour during the afternoon today. The approaching storm, which is expected to bring heavy rainfall and strong winds, has led the state government to close schools and colleges in several districts, halt public transport services. Cyclone Fengal, which intensified into a cyclonic storm on November 29, is predicted to make landfall between Karaikal and Mahabalipuram near Puducherry around midday. Meanwhile, flight operations at Chennai airport has been suspended due to Cyclone Fengal. In sports, Indian chess grandmaster Gukesh takes on China's reigning world champion Ding Liren in the Game 5 of the FIDE World Chess Championship 2024 in a while today in Singapore. Earlier on Friday, Gukesh held Liren to a draw in the Game 4 of the championship. The game ended in a draw after 42 moves as Gukesh, playing with black pieces, overcame a shaky initial phase in Singapore. The World Championship match is tied at 2-2 after 4 games. The first player to reach 7.5 points over 14 games will win the prestigious title. Two-time Olympic medalist and former world number 2 PV Sindhu defeated compatriot young shuttler Unnati Huda in the semi-finals of the Syed Modi International Super 300 badminton tournament on Saturday. Sindhu defeated Huda in straight sets 21-12, 21-9 to storm in the finals. On Friday, Sindhu defeated China's Wang Dai 21-15, 21-17 in the semi-finals. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.